Now, some of you may know that the MSPCA-Angell operates an incredible behavior program featuring many classes per week to help puppies, adolescents, and senior pets be good citizens of our communities. Our beloved animals and their owners learn the basics from top behaviorists, Dr. Terry Bright and Jocelyn Strassel, who we are so fortunate to have today as part of MSPCA-Angell Giving Day. As you are about to see, animal behavior is so much more than just basic commands. The MSPCA's program is grounded in contemporary research on animal behavior and includes ideas for solving common pet behavior problems. Dr. Bright and Jocelyn, welcome to our Giving Day. The floor, quite literally, is yours.
Thank you so much, Neil, for your warm welcome. And hello to all my friends and people who are not our friends yet. I'm so excited to be part of this group and to be here with my colleague, Jocelyn Strassel. So what we're going to talk about today is our own behavior department, about Jocelyn and I and how we came here, the behaviors that we think you probably should be training your dog. We'll use case reports throughout and let you know how you can engage with us if you need our help. We have group classes in Boston, Waltham, in Methuen, in puppy socialization, which is called Puppy Play and Learn, obedience, which we now call Learn to Train Your Dog, agility, nose work, canine good citizen, anything you need to train your dog. One of our 20 amazing certified training instructors can help with. If your dog cannot go to a class, or if they have a problem behavior such as aggression, separation anxiety, reactivity, or many other behaviors, then you can have a private appointment with myself or with Jocelyn Strassel. Jocelyn sees patients in Boston and Waltham, and I see them in Boston. If you need private help, either implementing your behavior plan that Jocelyn or I wrote, or if your dog cannot be in a group class for some reason, then our trainers can help them with that group class. And we also have some home training for puppies called Puppy Home Start, which is great for you. I came to the MSPCA in 2006. I just walked in the front door to volunteer as part of my learning at the master's program in behavior analysis at Simmons College. And after I'd been working with the dogs for about 5 months, the then shelter director, Gene Weber, said, "Hey, Terry, how would you like to be a training coordinator here and start some training classes?" Couldn't say no to that. Started training dogs in classes, hired my friends to train dogs in dog classes. And the program just grew naturally because everyone's dog needs training, as it turns out. When I defended my PhD thesis in 2013, I was asked to start a clinical program on the Angell side. Again, I could not say no. And luckily for me, Jocelyn Strassel joined us in 2015. Jocelyn, how did you come to the MSPCA?
Thanks, Dr. Bright. Great to be here today. So yes, my time at Angell began in 2001. I started my career here as a certified vet tech, working in our emergency and critical care and specialty services. I spent many years doing that, which cultivated an interest in behavior. So I decided to pursue a formal education in that area. Once I achieved my master's in applied animal behavior, then I joined the behavior team, and that was in 2015, and I've been happily doing that work ever since.
What we're going to talk about today is your dog and their development, and we're framing our talk in terms of where your dog is per their age, what we recommend for them at that age. So take a look at this slide and tell us where your dog is, and we will decide where your dog is, and we will help you to decide what their best training is. Let's start with puppies, of course, and I'll show you this little clip of Puppies some years ago. Is it going to fall in the bucket? No, he didn't fall in the bucket. So, of course, sometimes these puppies are no longer available. They're grown and gone, but I love this clip. Puppyhood is such an important time. The age of 4 to 14 weeks is a period where puppies are physiological, most able to habituate to novel stimuli. So what they walk on, what they hear, what they smell, who they're around, different kinds of people. It's an age where they learn to socialize properly and communicate with other dogs. And if that does not happen during that age, then they may grow up with social deficits. And I would say, and I think Jocelyn would agree, that probably 98% of the problem dog behaviors that we see in our clinical practice are related to under-socialization. I can tell you that the American Veterinary Society of Animal Behaviors recommends that your puppies start socialization before they are 12 weeks old, so before they have had all their vaccinations. So talk to your vet about that. Puppy socialization used to be just take your puppy to 100 places and Bob's your uncle. That's not true anymore. We know that socialization should be approached gradually and should take into consideration the puppy's fears. They should be removed from places they are frightened. You should use food and other things for counter conditioning if they are frightened. We've completely changed our puppy play and learn classes because so many puppies are fearful now. The behaviors that you should teach your puppy are crate training. This is a great thing for house training and for independence for your puppy. Name recognition, something they need to learn, how to come when called. Sits, downs, these are the types of things that we teach in puppy play and learn. Make sure that you're gentle with your puppy. No penny cans. We don't want to scare your puppy. This is an animal living in your house that you want to be a family member. Don't take food away when they're eating, and I'll talk about that in a second. If they growl at you at any time and you need help, just reach out to us and we'll try to help you if we can. If they do growl, sometimes it's over food, it's over toys, it's over places they're resting. This is called resource guarding. This can emerge in puppyhood or in adolescence. And they might growl, they might snap at you, they might bite if you're reaching towards something that is important to them. The worst thing you can do is to grab them by the scruff or hold them by the muzzle. This frightens your puppy, can actually increase their aggression. You want your puppy to see you as a friendly family member. We do not recommend that you repeatedly put your hand in your puppy's food or repeatedly take their food bowl away while they're eating. This can actually sensitize them to become resource guarding around their food, because you wouldn't like it if someone did that to you and they don't like it either. Hand targeting is a great behavior to teach your puppy as well if they're nervous about your hands, which they might be when they come to your house. So if you just smear a little peanut butter or cheese on your hand and hold your hand out, and here's my demo puppy, they touch your hand with their nose, give them a cookie, and they'll come to do that frequently. It can be a recall and all kinds of different ways that you can train tricks and other behaviors. So just when your puppy is so sweet and perfect and it does everything you say and you love them so much, and then they become a teenager. Across species, adolescence is tough. What we can tell you that those months of adolescence are times when, if there's a behavior that your dog has inherited, we might see that flower then. So your very confident and friendly puppy might become very fearful. Your puppy who welcomed everyone to the front door might become very territorial and bark at those who are outside the gate or at the front door. This is a huge disappointment to people, and we see a lot of cases where dogs have really changed going through adolescence. So it's really important to continue those basic rewards-based methods of training. Sit, lie down, stay, recall, leave it. So that means that thing there, you can't have it, but you can have this instead, which is even better. Drop it, meaning let go of that thing that's in your mouth. And also the famous don't drag my arm out of the socket down the street, which we call loose leash walking. Exercise is really important for every dog, but especially these adolescents. They sleep better if they've had some good large muscle exercise. We do not recommend that you take your dog to dog parks. We call dog parks crime school. Dog parks are a place where many dogs learn to fight. And so it's much better to find a few dogs that your dog behaves appropriately with and meet up with those dogs and let them play together than to just throw them into a completely unknown situation that is not potentially safe. The same is true at daycare. If you haven't seen how your dog behaves at daycare, then make sure you have the daycare provider send you video of them. There have been times that we've had clients send video of their dog who's having a great day at daycare, and the dog was spending the day circling the room, trying to stay away from the other dogs. So at least find out what your dog is doing at daycare and making sure they're having a good day.
Okay, on to adulthood. So adulthood, this is when all of our dogs grow out of their problems, right? We hear this all the time. No, unfortunately, that is not usually the case. So we consider adulthood in dogs to be approximately 2 to 8 years old. Dogs reach their social maturity around 2.5 years. And adulthood is a time when we might slack off on our training a little bit. We may not spend as much time devoted to it as we think about doing during the adolescence and puppyhood. But it's really important to make sure we're maintaining these behaviors that we've spent this time training. And that's going to, in order for that to occur, we really need to make sure we're rewarding our dogs for the things that we've taught them on a regular basis. So think about doing a minimum of a few training sessions several times a week. We might pair this up with meal times or before and after a walk, a time when you're already giving your attention to your dog. You can really work that into your schedule. That's going to help keep these behaviors fluent and reliable, which is exactly what we want during the adulthood. It's going to help prevent unwanted behaviors that might reemerge. They may start to sharply incline if we're not teaching our dogs what we want them to do. Try to maintain a predictable schedule for your dogs. We all like predictability, right? We like to know what's going to happen in our day, especially if you have a nervous or anxious dog. This can be a really helpful thing for them to know what to expect. Adulthood is an excellent time to try some new things, try some new classes, or try some new training. If you are a renter, having your dog achieve their Canine Good Citizen certificate is just so valuable for that rental application. Any potential landlords that see that on a rental application is going to go a long way. They know you're training your dog and it's a well-behaved dog citizen. Things like nose work and agility can be really fun alternatives to our basic obedience classes. So if you want to try something more active and your dog is an active dog, agility is great. Nose work is teaching your dog to find a scent that's hidden and use their amazing, amazing noses. Okay, seniors, our favorites, the golden years. Senior dogs we consider 8+. So those dogs, things change as our dogs get older, but we absolutely can continue to teach them new things. We have older dogs in our classes all the time, learning new things and really enjoying their time there. So this might be a time when their activity changes a little bit. Maybe your dog's slowing down a bit. Maybe they might not enjoy roughhousing and crazy play that they enjoyed as a younger dog. So think about other ways that you can still provide them with stimulation. Like Esme here, for example, having a nice sniff walk on the beach, just taking her time and enjoying the smells and the sights there. It's a great time to provide increased enrichment, which I'm going to talk about in detail in a little bit. Also, be really mindful about any cognitive changes that you observe in your pet. This might be things like your dog suddenly starting to seem disoriented in the house or a real change in their sleep schedule. If you recognize any of these changes, you should speak to your vet about that so that they can best advise you in that area.
I wanted to talk for a few minutes about separation anxiety because it got so much press during the pandemic. And the truth is, most behaviorists, separation anxiety is in the top 2 most common behaviors that they see. This can happen to any dog. What it looks like is between 15 and 30 minutes after you leave your house, your dog might vocalize excessively and your neighbor might tell you this. They might urinate or defecate in the house, even if they're house trained. They might try to escape. You might see scratch marks at doors and windows, and you might see destructive behavior, which you don't usually see. It's important to video them when they're home alone if you see this, so you can tell if they do settle down after a while if they do not settle down. What I can tell you is it is not safe to crate a dog who is having a panic anxiety attack, which is the symptom of separation anxiety. They can fracture their teeth, they can badly injure themselves. That's not the thing to do. I wanted to give you a real tip that sometimes if you remove all gates, crates, everything, and give the dog free run of all your square footage in your home, sometimes that ameliorates separation anxiety in a really significant way. If it doesn't, you'll need to talk to your vet about anxiolytic medication, and you'll need an appointment with a clinical behaviorist who can work with the vet or with a veterinary behaviorist. This is a hard gig, separation anxiety. I also wanted to talk to you about this. What I will tell you is that growing up, my mother told me, if it sounds too good to be true, then it is. What I will say is that if you think that you can send your dog away to someone else's home to be trained for 1 or 2 weeks, and they will come back and they will be Lassie, it's highly unlikely. We see a lot of clinical appointments where dogs who went to board and train actually came back with increased fear and anxiety. Part of the reason is we use rewards-based training at MSPCA-Angell because the research shows that it has the fewest side effects. Other trainers and those many who do board and train rely on prong collars, e-collars, and aversive sprays to diminish unwanted behavior, but the behavior's cause has not been assessed or addressed. So there's no counter conditioning, there's no differential reinforcement of alternative behavior. The dog is simply housed, brought up, taught, sit down, those kind of things, but its inner anxiety or problems have not been addressed. So we do not recommend that kind of training. A couple of cases I've had where I removed that kind of training and the dog's behavior improved. This little small border terrier, he's my patient. He was attacked when he was a puppy. It caused him to be dog aggressive. He got another dog by the ear and bit them. They went to a trainer who recommended they used an e-collar and a prong collar, and they religiously did what the trainer said. The puppy wound up with fistulas or wounds in his neck from the e-collar. That's an unusual but a known side effect. And his dog aggression increased even more to the extent that he actually sent a bigger dog to the hospital. So we removed the aversive training. We got him eating peanut butter out of a silicone. This is just a lotion bottle you can get from CVS when he saw other dogs. And he's not going to be Lassie with other dogs. He just isn't. But recently they let us know that they could walk by another dog. He would not aggress at all. He's just eating peanut butter. And just recently I saw a 13-year-old dachshund who was nipping people's feet. And he also was wearing a prong collar, and the trainer just said, do this and he'll stop it. But he didn't stop it. So we had to remove the prong collar, used alternative methods of teaching the dog to do something else. And she literally sent me an email 2 days later saying how much more relaxed both she and the dog were without the prong collar. These are some training equipment that we use. We love the clicker and food. This is a piece of Stella and Chewy's freeze dried. We love that stuff. It smells terrible. What I can tell you is that dogs have a much better sense of smell than they do of taste. So if you put your nose in the bag and you think you're going to throw up, that's a good treat. We use toys. I love to use a whistle to train my dog. These kind of things, you can teach your dog alternative behaviors to their problem behaviors. Here's some equipment that we recommend. A martingale collar is simply an everyday collar. You can use it when walking your dog. The nice thing about it is it has this cloth ring, so it tightens, but not infinitely so. If you need to train your dog not to pull on the leash, many people will use a harness to limit the pressure around their dog's neck if their dog hasn't learned yet. This is one that we like. It's called the Freedom No Pull Harness. It has a hook on the top and a hook in the front. You can use the double leash that comes with it, or I just use a regular leash clipped to the front. This is my dog ribbon here. And really the best way is just give your dog treats next to you, and that becomes the best place to walk. If your dog goes vertically, then we often will use a head halter. The gentle leader is a well-known one. The only thing I will tell you is be careful with this plastic clip underneath it. If it's not fit correctly, it can cause an abrasion under your dog's jaw. I love this head halter. It's called a snoot loop. It's very light. It's made of kind of a parachute cord material, and you can actually close your dog's mouth with it if you need to in a pinch for a reason that you would know if you had to. The sporn head halter is great for those dogs who pull forward like a draft horse, because it hooks behind the dog's head. If they pull, it pulls their head down just a little tiny bit. So great stuff to use. Let's talk about enrichment, Jocelyn.
Yes, let's talk about enrichment. First of all, what is it? So environmental enrichment really refers to providing opportunities for your dog or your cat, we love our cats too, to engage in their normal instinctual behaviors. Things like sniffing, chewing, digging, playing. These are normal behaviors for dogs. We want to give them appropriate outlets where they can do this and it doesn't become a problem for us. Some examples of ways we can enrich our dog's environments, food dispensing toys. You may be really familiar with the Kong. That's a hard rubber toy that can be stuffed with all kinds of goodies. This here on our screen, we're looking at a Kong wobbler. This is great for dry treats and kibble. Also below it, we see a puzzle toy. There's really no shortage. There's just so many out there for you to experiment with. We're going to look at a few more in a minute. Other examples might include scent work, hiding something fun or exciting for your dog to find in a cardboard box, or hiding a novel toy. Maybe your dog likes digging. You might set up a kiddie pool in the backyard with a bunch of sand. They can dig in and find things so that they're not ripping up the flower beds and getting everybody upset. Enrichment provides so many benefits. It's going to provide your dog with mental and physical stimulation. Give them things to think about that are engaging and fun. And it's really, really helpful to decrease problem behaviors. We include some kind of enrichment in almost every one of our behavior plans that we do for clients. So let's think about the stages of life we mentioned. I really encourage you, no matter what stage your dog is in, to use this as part of their everyday life. If you have a puppy or a young dog, using enrichment is going to help prevent unwanted chewing. So instead of chewing on the furniture, we're going to give them an appropriate outlet. For older dogs, or maybe your dog's recovering from a surgery and needs to be restricted with their exercise, it's going to give them an activity. It's also going to provide low impact exercise if that's what's necessary. For anxious dogs, it can give them something, quote, good to think about. So instead of worrying about, oh, what was that noise? Or, oh, what was that? They can be engaged and interested, and those things aren't going to matter quite as much. And for all dogs, it can help to promote independent behavior. So if you have a Zoom meeting, having your dog set up with something great to do for that hour is going to prevent barking, which is going to make everyone, you and your colleagues, happy. Okay, here's a couple examples. This is my dog Sugar in the first video. She's using what's called a snuffle mat, which is, you can see it's a small mat with strips of fleece. We can go ahead and play the video and we'll see her sniffing around in there. She's getting all her kibble out. This is so much more fun than her eating from a bowl, right? She's engaged and it's slowing her down. So much fun. Okay, this is Walter and Jessie. These are two cats that love to do their activities. They're using an activity mat. You can see they're using their paws and mouths to get that kibble out of there. Anybody that's ever owned a cat that's just scarfed down their food, this is such a much better experience for the cats. And it's also going to give them some things to think about. And it goes a long way to preventing problems in cats as well. So here's a couple more enrichment tips. This is what we call the everlasting gobstopper. This is a Kong and one of our Stella and Chewy's patties that Dr. Bright mentioned. We're squeezing that Kong to the side, popping that patty in there, and then releasing it so that it's really, really hard for the dog to get out. So it can really go a long way in keeping them busy. Some dogs, like Ribbon here, they'll spend a full hour working on this. We often use them during our consults to buy some time while we chat with the owners. And here's Ribbon using what's called a treat and train. This is a remote treat dispenser. And you see she's eating out of the bowl there. And this is great for lots of things, including teaching a long down stay in a place. preventing jumping on guests, and excellent tool for new parents. So if any of you are new parents out there, it gives your dog an activity while you're changing or attending to your baby. So it can be a really, really nice thing for them to do while you're involved with the baby. Okay, I want to talk about an activity that I really love and use for many things called the scavenger hunt. And this is a way that we can incorporate enrichment and kind of extend it and make it a fun activity. So we want to utilize your dog's meal and their daily treats. We're not adding a ton of calories here. You can see in this slide that this is my dog's meal for the day. This is her dinner and some treats, like a little teaspoon of peanut butter there, her dental treat. And what we're going to do for the scavenger hunt is divide them up and place them in these multiple food toys that you see in the second picture. And once everything's packed into these food toys, we're going to hide them around the house and then release her to go find them. So we're not getting extra calories here, just to kind of send that home. A lot of people think, oh, all this more calories, but no, we're using food in a different way here. Here are some hiding spots. I want to mention this is great for kids to participate in, right? Get your kids involved. This is an awesome kind of hands-off way for them to interact with their dog and have fun. See who gets the best hiding spot. These are some examples in the food, in the toy bin, on the bed, behind a plant, behind a door. You can make it a little more advanced as your dog gets more savvy. All right, so before we watch these videos, just to kind of give you a little introduction here, this is my dog Sugar, as I mentioned. She's almost 13 years old and she's got some orthopedic problems, so she's slowing down a bit. And this is just shows you, her choice is to be a couch potato. But when I started implementing this, she really got excited, gets her moving. So this first video we're going to watch is of her getting released to go ahead and find it. So there she goes, off to her first spot, excited, tail wagging, right to the easy spot. This next video is one of my favorites. And what this shows you is really how the dogs are going to scan the environment. They're going to see what's out there. They're going to pick and choose. And in her case, what she does is she loves to bring everything back to that home base of her dog bed to chew on. So let's watch. There she goes. I mean, what is better than watching your senior dog get excited and hearing those galloping noises coming back, as she finds something fun. So it's really an awesome activity. I think you're all going to really enjoy it if you try it, no matter what stage of life your dog's in.
I need a tissue every time I see that video.
So some case examples how enrichment has helped, just to kind of touch quickly on these. For puppies, we use these in cases where the puppies might be directing their really mouthy, biting behavior at children in the home or the adults in the home. It can really hurt. Those puppy teeth hurt. So we're giving them lots and lots of ways to do that. That's appropriate, which is going to decrease those problem behaviors directed towards the people in the house. For adolescents or adults, we can see decreased reactivity. Oftentimes, it'll really help with that. Makes those outdoor noises a lot less salient. And as Dr. Bright mentioned about separation anxiety, for really mild cases, it can help ease a dog's anxiety about being alone. And for senior dogs, as I said, keeps that cognitive function sharp, helps with that improved mobility, and really just has lots and lots of benefits. So as I mentioned, we do this in almost every case we see. We incorporate enrichment in some way, and it's just so helpful.
Those are our thoughts as Ribbon holds up her paw, saying, if you have questions, let us know. Rob Halpin is going to deliver questions to us. Jocelyn and I can answer them. You can direct them to one of us or the other, but we're here to help.
Well, let me just say, I thought that was fantastic. I hope it was very helpful for everyone. Thank you, Dr. Bright. Thank you, Jocelyn. I know we pedaled very quickly through this, right? Because there's a lot of content and we don't have a lot of time. So I just want to make sure everyone knows that the slides and the recording of the presentation is going to be loaded shortly after this presentation to MSPCA-givingday.org. So you can always go there to look at this and indeed all of the presentations today. So we want it to be a resource for you. There's so much good advice, tips, and tricks in here. So go to MSPCA-givingday.org across the rest of today and consume this content again if it's helpful. Okay, questions. So that was packed with great information. Thank you, guys. The Adoption Center Director for the MSPCA, Mike Kiley, had said earlier today in his presentation that the adoption rate is not slowing down, right? In the last year alone, we brought up 4,000 pets from areas of the country where adoptive homes are few to Massachusetts, and they are still being gobbled up. A question that comes up again and again is, just adopted a new dog. I bring that new dog home to either resident dog or resident cat, and it's chaos. And we won't go into all of the reasons why it's chaos, but new pet, resident pet, sometimes there's conflict. What should people know, guys, when they're bringing home a new pet? Basic general advice to kick things off on the best foot. Dr. Bright, why don't you take that one?
Okay, well, general best advice is to keep them on separate tracks for a while. So keep them separated, cats or dogs, eating, sleeping in different rooms. When they're together, have them be together outside, leashed at first, and do what we call parallel walking, where they're walking 5 feet or so away from each other. And if they seem relaxed, sniff noses, everybody gets a cookie. Go a little farther. If they seem relaxed, sniff noses, and then get a cookie. If there's a place where they can spend time off leash, and after some days they seem really relaxed about each other and eager to engage, their musculature seems relaxed, they're loose and wiggly, you don't see tense staring at each other, then perhaps you can let them go in a fenced-in area, take the leash off of one, let the other drag a leash in case you need to bring them apart quickly. But in the house, it's harder because they kind of feel the pressure of being in the house. It's kind of like if you go from a big lobby into an elevator, you feel that pressure, and that pressure can change their behavior inside. So keep things controlled. So dogs on leash or dragging a leash, and when they're together under training contingencies, learning sit, lie down, stay, and practice those basic behaviors apart and then together, and really watch that body language. The dog's behavior will lead you down the right path.
Yeah, one
Very
other thing
helpful.
to add real quick on that. Make sure you're not punishing your dogs if they're uncomfortable, right? They're just trying to communicate how they feel. If you're noticing any signs of discomfort or aggression, it tells you want to give them more space and more distance and more
Right.
time. We don't want to punish them and make them feel kind of worse about the other animal in the home.
Very helpful. Thank you. So a lot of these questions that you guys are asking, they're all great questions. They're all very specific. So in the interest of time, I'm going to try to ask the questions that will be most useful for most people who are watching. I feel like we tend to think that puppies, as a rule, are a little bit more malleable, and we imagine when we adopt or bring home an older dog or an adolescence that it's going to be a real uphill road, right, to get them well trained and a good citizen in the world. Jocelyn, tell us a little bit quickly, if you can, how different is it to bring an adolescent or adult dog who may have had little or no training up to speed relative to a puppy?
Yeah, there's kind of two things that can impact behavior, both their socialization as a young puppy, as well as their genetics and who they are as an individual. So, if you're getting a puppy that's still in that critical window for socialization that we'd mentioned earlier, it's giving you the opportunity to make a bigger impact, maybe in a quicker way, versus an older dog that may have a learning history of different things, right? They may have different experiences that impacted them. So we may be kind of working with changing how they feel about things that has developed over the course of that learning history. But everybody's trainable and we can all learn new things for sure.
Great advice. Thank you. Dogs who are reactive while out on a walk, either with other dogs or people, children, aside from the obvious, which is cross the street with our dog, what should we know when it becomes clear to us that out in the world, out on a walk, things aren't always going so well in terms of our dog's behavior? Dr. Bright.
We see a lot of that clearly, and by reactivity, I assume that people mean that the dog lunges and barks when they see something, not that
Right.
they're aggressive, they don't have a bite history. But it needs to be assessed, and one way to do that is to look at the 3-term contingency of what happens before the behavior, what does the behavior look like, what is the consequence of the behavior, what does the dog get from the behavior. So sometimes a dog who lunges and barks might be saying, get over here, because in the past they have been able to go see another dog bark, 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 and someone let them go and play. At other times, a dog is barking because they're trying to get distance. They barked at something in the past and it went away. That's a particular kind of reinforcement called negative reinforcement, meaning that their behavior removes something, minuses it. It doesn't mean something bad, but their behavior removes something. My dog Ribbon removes the mail carrier from the front porch every day by barking at them. That's negative reinforcement. So if your dog hasn't been exposed to children, for example, and barks at them, and the result is that your dog gets moved away, the child gets moved away, that behavior is being reinforced. So it's never a bad idea to keep your dog at a distance at which they note the other dog, scooter, child, whatever, and feed them some delicious, smells terrible food as soon as they see it before they bark. Because in that way, what they are looking at can become a trigger for like, hey, where's my food? That's a real combination way of using counter conditioning, operant conditioning to teach a new behavior.
Very helpful. Thank you. We've got 1 minute left, guys. I want to ask one more question because this is one of those stimulus response situations that can be very widely applicable to most people on the line. The best way to train a dog to calm down before they get too excited, like when a new guest comes in or the doorbell rings. Jocelyn, give us 45 seconds on that if you can.
Sure. So guests can be tough, right? Because that jumping and crazy behavior is often maintained by the attention they get as a result, right? So you can think about keeping your dog on leash as an option and using those smelly, delicious treats to reward them for not jumping on the guest, asking them to sit and rewarding that. Sometimes using something like a stuffed Kong or a food toy can help to diffuse that excitement. So they're kind of like, I'm going to say hi, but now I'm going to run over and eat my little bone or my Kong. So that can be helpful, but really prevention is a big part of changing that behavior. So keep that dog on leash, keep them working for you, and hopefully get them involved in something else. And if all else fails, don't be afraid to use a baby gate too, to keep them separated completely.
Good idea. That's great. All right, we're going to wrap up the questions in the interest of time. I know that there's many more questions than we were able to get to, but rest assured, gang, we have the chat transcript. We'll go through it. We'll get answers to folks who asked them. Neil, over to you.
Oh my gosh, thank you so much again for a terrific presentation. I mean, Terry, Jocelyn, it was a privilege to have you share your insights with us. And as you know, as someone who just adopted a rescue puppy and has a 12-year-old senior dog who some people call Cujo, I learned a lot. It was terrific. Thank you so much.